Absence of war conflicts. Introduction. Throughout the history of Europe, there have been a wide range of conflicts, either political issues or wars, that have had a great repercussion in the development of the current European Union. Conflict, as big as the First and Second World War, took place in Europe, contributing to form the basis of our European Union. Since 18, Europe has suffered different kinds of problems. We are going to go through them since that year up to now. This, the absence of war conflicts, is a very important advantage of being a European citizen. Germany, France, Italy, United Kingdom, and every country which compose the European Union have participated in some wars. The most important of them were World War I and World War II. Approximately 50 years ago, Europe was full of conflict. But nowadays, we are living in peace since the European Union's creation. Some of these conflicts have been
between 1801 and 1815. When Napoleon's influence and power reached its highest level, he won the Austrians at Marengo and occupied northern Italy and part of Austria. In 1802, the First and French signed the Treaty of Amiens, ending the war that were frequent between them. Thus began the longest period of peace during the period 1792 and 1850. In this year, Napoleon began a war against Britain, in which it is included the Waterloo Battle. When the First French Republic was enforced, the following countries were dominated: Netherlands, Switzerland, and Italy. In 1807, France and Spain were to fight Portugal, but 1 year later, Spain had been occupied by the French army, and a war which was finished with a Spanish victory after several years battling. In the end, Napoleon was defeated by the Russian army.
The Belgian Revolution was the conflict which led to the secession of the southern provinces from the United Kingdom of the Netherlands and established an independent kingdom of Belgium. The Belgian Revolution had many causes and consequences, mainly the treatment of the French-speaking Catholic Walloons in the Dutch-dominated United Kingdom of the Netherlands, and the difference of religion between the Belgians and their Dutch king. The Second Slavish War. The Second Slavish War was the second military conflict as a result of the Slavish-Holstein question. It began on the 1st of February in 1864, when Prussian forces crossed the border into Slavish. Denmark fought Prussia and Austria, like the First Slavish War in 1848. It was fought for the control of the duchies because of succession disputes concerning the duchies of Holstein and Lauenburg, when the Danish king died without an heir acceptable to the German Confederation. Decisive controversy arose due to the passing of the November Constitution, which integrated the Duchy of Slavish into the Danish kingdom in violation of the London Protocol. Reasons for the war were the ethnic controversy in Slavish and the coexistence of conflicting political systems within the Danish unitary state. The war ended on the 30th of October in 1864, when the Treaty of Vienna caused Denmark's secession, the duchies of Schleswig, Holstein, and Saxon-Lauenburg to Prussia and Austria. It was the last victorious conflict of the Austrian Empire, Austria-Hungary, in its history.
Austro-Prussian War. The Austro-Prussian War was a military conflict between Austria and Prussia in 1866. Prussia, which became winner, turned into the hegemonic state of Germany.
The Italian Unification. The Italian Unification was a political and social movement that agglomerated different states of the Italian peninsula into the single state of Italy in the 19th century. Despite a lack of consensus on the exact dates for the beginning and the end of this period, Many scholars agree that the process began in 1815 with the Congress of Vienna and the end of the Napoleonic rule, and ended in 1870 with the capture of Rome, the last terre irredente. Did not, however, join the Kingdom of Italy until after World War I, with the Treaty of Saint-Germain. Some nationalists see the Armistice of Villa Giusti as the end of the unification. Franco-Prussian War. The Franco-Prussian War, or Franco-German War, often referred to in France as the War of 1870, from the 19th of July of that year up to the 10th of May in 1871. This was a significant conflict pitting the Second French Empire against the Kingdom of Prussia. Prussia was led by the North German Confederation, crafted in 1867, after Prussia's victory against the Austrian Empire, and of which it was leading member, and the South German states. The Franco-Prussian War was the most important conflict fought in Europe between the time of the Napoleonic Wars and the First World War, ending with the complete victory of Prussia and its allies. Russo-Turkish War, from 1877 to 1878, also known as the War in the East, had its origin in the Russian goal of gaining access to the Mediterranean Sea and to liberate the Slavs of the Balkans in southwestern Europe, dominated by the Ottoman Empire. Russia was supported by the Eastern Orthodox coalition, Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria. The nations liberated by the Russians after centuries of the Turkish yoke still considered this war as the start of its nationality. As a result of the war, Russia succeeded in its goal of gaining access to the Mediterranean Sea in the Caucasus. Serbia and Montenegro formally proclaimed their independence from the Ottoman Empire after almost 5 centuries of Ottoman domination. The Bulgarian state was re-established as the Principality of Bulgaria, covering the land between the Danube River and the Balkan Mountains. The Congress of Berlin also allowed Austria-Hungary to annex Bosnia and Herzegovina and the United Kingdom to take over Cyprus.
The European colonial period was the era from the 50s to the mid-90s, where several European powers, particularly but not exclusively, Portugal, Spain, Britain, the Netherlands and France, established colonies in Asia, Africa and the Americas. At first, the countries followed mercantilistic policies designed to strengthen the home economy at the expense of rivals, so the colonies were usually allowed to trade only with the mother country. By the mid-19th century, however, the powerful British Empire gave up mercantilism and trade restrictions and introduced the principle of free trade, with few restrictions for tariffs. In this period, there was a lot of conflicts between the European leaders in the territories that they colonized. Egypt, between the UK and France for the control of Suez Canal. UK win and obtain the control of Suez Canal. Tunisia, between Italy and France, and the UK helped France because they didn't want that Italy controlled the Mediterranean Sea. The pink map. Portugal wanted to expand, unifying Angola and Mozambique, but they must confront with the UK axis, Fashoda incident. The UK axis confront with the France axis. Boer War, between UK and Boers, Irish, and the Morocco crisis. World War I or Great War. It was a global war that was produced in Europe that began on 28 July 1940 and lasted until 11 November 1918. It involved all the world's great powers which were assembled into position alliances. The Allies, based on the Triple Entente of the United Kingdom, France and Russia, and the Central Powers, originally the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary and Italy. This war has been the worst in the history because it has had a lot of hard impacts. This war supposed more than 9 million of deaths too.
The Second World War was a global war that lasted from 1939 to 1945. It involved the vast majority of the world's nations. In a state of total war, the major participants placed their entire economic, industrial and scientific capabilities at the service of the world effort, erasing the distinction between civilian and military. World War II was by far the deadliest conflict in human history.
The Hungarian Revolution. The Hungarian Revolution of Uprising was a spontaneous nationwide revolt against the government of the People's Republic of Hungary and its Soviet-imposed policies, lasting from the 23rd of October until the 10th of November in 1956. It was the first major threat to Soviet controls since the USSR's forces drove out the Nazis at the end of World War II and occupied Eastern Europe. Despite the failure of the uprising, it was highly influential and came to play a role in the downfall of the Soviet Union decades later. Public discussion about this revolution was suppressed in Hungary for more than 30 years. Since the thaw of the 80s, it has been a subject of intense study and debate. At the inauguration of the Third Hungarian Republic in 1989, the 23rd of October was declared a national holiday.
The Berlin Wall was a barrier constructed by the German Democratic Republic starting on 13 August 1961 that completely cut off by land West Berlin from surrounding East Germany and from East Berlin. In practice, the wall served to prevent the massive immigration and defection that marked Germany and the communist Eastern Bloc during the post-World War II period. In 1989, a series of radical political changes occurred in the Eastern Bloc. The physical wall itself was primarily destroyed in 1990.
Prague Spring. The Prague Spring was a period of political liberation in Czechoslovakia during the era of its domination by the Soviet Union after World War II. It began on the 5th of January in 1968, when reformist Alexander Dubček was elected the first Secretary of Communist Party of Czechoslovakia, and continued until the 21st of August, when the Soviet Union and all members of the Warsaw Pact, with the notable exception of Romania, invaded the country to halt the reforms. They were an attempt to grant additional rights to the citizens in an act of partial decentralization of the economy and democratization. The reforms, especially the decentralization of administrative authority, were not received well by the Soviets, who, after failed negotiations, sent thousands of Warsaw Pact troops and tanks to occupy the country. After the invasion, Czechoslovakia entered a period of normalization.
Since 1945, the European countries which have taken part in the different political organizations in the European Union haven't had any more conflicts.